just did all of these, fill in all of these pages with you, and I tried something new with my camera and it didn't record any of this. That's so frustrating, but I guess I'll just walk you through what I did. I always print off 2 book covers so I can put it in my read and then reviews. I went on Storygraph and I put in all of my things. I always write down the date I read the book, my rating, and then what star it comes out to, and then the title. And I just keep it in these sticky notes in my journal and I update it. That's really frustrating. I'm so proud of how these are going. Oh, that's so sad. Okay, it is what it is. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm still trying to figure out new ways to film that's easier, that I can actually see, because my camera is quite old and I need to buy a cable or something to hook my camera up to my computer so I can actually see what I'm doing, like on a monitor. But I digress. Anyways, so I filled out my books. I read 11 books this month. One of them I have to print off. It was the Magical Readathon, so I was keeping track of all the books that I had read here too, just so I knew these were my ideas. This is where I actually read. I finished all of these. Then I put together all of these. This is for Beautiful Demons by Sarah Cannon, but I want to print off all of the series, like the Shadow Demon Saga series covers together, so this is not inputted yet. Again, just some decoration. And then I bought some stickers off of, and this paper too, off of Amazon for Fourth Wing, or the Empyrean series, Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm. And then I was just doing my May setup, and I'm so proud of this. It looks so cute. I'm so upset. But anyways, let's continue. Okay, so a final flip through. I really love this May theme, the hydrangeas, the pink. I'm not a pink girly, but it works. I have 2 covers I still need to print. I changed this up just a little bit. I had got these stickers in the book delivery from Sarah Cannon, so I do have this on ebook, but I also own it physically because I knew that I was getting it sent to me physically, but the author, Sarah Cannon, has been under the weather a little bit, so I knew it was going to take some time, and then we had a Canadian postal strike and yada yada, so I bought it to read and support, so I kind of supported her twice, and we got some stickers and some goodies with the book delivery. So I put the Sarah Cannon book club, and then I actually cut this, but it was a bookmark that came with the novel, and this was the tagline. Loved it. Now I have thoughts about these, not a lot of them, but I really want to, and this is what I do with poetry because I don't read it often. I really like to take my time and really think about my feelings, because poetry to me, there's so many emotions and thoughts from one poem to the next that it takes me quite a few days to kind of come to an overall decision and thought when it comes to poetry. So these are not filled out yet. And then we get into June. I do have 2 more novels that I did read this month, which I will print out and put here, but I'm planning on reading all 4, I guess the quartet of those novels, and I'm just going to put them in June so they're all together, kind of like what I did with Onyx Storm. Technically I read that in May, but I wanted to keep the trilogy thus far together. So I also haven't wrote my thoughts on these books yet because I want to reread them. I have thoughts, but I listened to all of the audiobooks back to back to back, so I don't remember where one book stops and the next starts. So I want to read them physically, and I am waiting for my Fourth Wing physical copy to come in the mail. Yes, I did rate these, set these up. I have thoughts, but I just want to differentiate my thoughts from book to book, if that makes sense, because like I said, I read them all at once. And then I do have some quotes I want to put in here, but so that is my May setup. I also think this is the first time you've seen like the full write out version of my reviews. But then we get into June, and June is citrus theme for me, okay, because I am throwing a party for my son and my husband, and so I'm in the theme here, and I really love this. I recently got a bunch of washi tapes I can link below from Amazon. Love them, love the color differences. Oh, they're like muted, but they're so beautiful. Love, love. Yes, I am very much looking forward to June. I don't know how much reading I'm going to get done because June is so freaking busy. We have a party, we have a camping trip, we have housework, we have outdoor stuff with a baby and baseball or slow pitch and appointments. So I don't know how much I'll actually be reading in June, but I'm really loving this theme. These are sticky notes, and I write down all the books and the ratings on sticky notes, and I'll line them up all in here so I can just pop them in online or in my journal when I'm done. And sometimes I'll write the date that I finished it, whatever star rating I have, that kind of thing. Thank you so much for watching. Again, every single one of you. If you made it to the end, leave a lemon or a yellow emoji and let me know what you're reading this month. I would love to know. I love new recommendations and such, so please let me know down below. Like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you want to be a part of our community here on YouTube. We are growing slowly but surely, and I am so grateful for every single one of you. I hope you have a wonderful day or night whenever you are watching this, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!